All right, let me start over. We've had some tech difficulties, so we're starting a little bit late. So if you guys could help us and share around, we would appreciate it. We got a new friend coming in. Should be here in just a second. All right, here we go. 13 people in the house. How's it going, everybody? Got a new friend, Vanessa, coming in. I think that's her there. Hang on one second. Certainly, yeah, she's here. I see you, Vanessa. I'll pull you up in just about 2 minutes. Just going to share this out real quick. Thank you for having the patience through our technical difficulties. We do appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. This is going to be a very good show. Excellent show. Oh, we're being blocked again. So if you could share these, we would appreciate it. All right, I'm going to put on a little bit of a quick intro and then allow some people time to come in and be right back. Okay, I'm going to pull Vanessa up now. Get her going here.
If you manage a team, you should be using Monday.com.
All right. Vanessa, let's see here. Start video. Yeah, kind of a crazy start. But the good news is, hang on, let me unmute her. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Vanessa. How are you?
Good. How are you, Todd?
Anytime we have technical difficulties, we always have an incredible show. And I know you had to reschedule something. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. I know the third time's the charm. That's all I can say.
Yes. It's all in divine timing. Sometimes not on our schedule, but if we hang in there, we'll get it. I've been through this.
That's right. And I don't know how much you know about Soulogy, but it's pretty much seat of the pants. You know, back in the old days, they might call it unprofessional. We call it spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative, and depending on what we're doing or talking about, courageous. So we have a conversation. It's not really a Q&A, although I'm sure I'm going to ask some questions. You can feel free to ask any questions you want to. So,
oh, great.
Welcome to Soulogy, Soul Speaks 5D. Thank you for sharing space with us and honoring us with your presence. I know you come to us by our dear friend, Kathy Mason, who's got a free tele summit coming up, actually starts today. And I think you're part of that. And so I just want to put that plug in. We don't do that a lot, but we're in a year of collaboration and co-creation, and there's no competition. So let's just serve it up.
Well, I'm glad that we're sharing. I'm not part of that, but I'm glad that we're, adding to the collective. We're adding to the collective.
I thought you were. Okay. Yeah. Well, then I just said all that for nothing.
Well, we added to the collective of goodness, right?
That's right.
By sharing.
So Vanessa Codorniu.
Codorniu.
Yeah. Italian? Is that Italian?
My language teachers always told me it was Romanian. And my family's from South America, also Italian, also Spanish, indigenous. And I found out through DNA that yes, we do have Romanian, DNA. So the name comes from there, traveling through Spain, traveling South America, and then
Traveling through the
United States.
galaxies.
And of course, well, that was even before, right? Before Romania or Spain or etc. So yeah, yeah.
So, when did you wake up?
I really, it was layers of waking up. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I had a particular life and then went, oh my God, there's more to it.
Yeah.
I'm fourth or even fifth generation, it's unclear, psychic medium. So coming from a South American family, Argentine family, I grew up hearing like there's messages, abuelita, grandma said this, like there was this understanding, this knowing there was more to life.
Wow.
So the big, I mean, one of the big ones I think was when I was a little kid and something pretty horrible happened and I wanted to die. I mean, I was 6 or 7 and I remember laying down on the ground going, I just want to go back because I just knew I was from somewhere else. I just want to go back. And I felt this presence that was like, you came here for a reason. You came here because you wanted to be here. Simpler child terms. But then I just started to see images. And I can tell you that most of the images already played out in my life. And so it was really beautiful. No matter how on the edge or no matter what losses I've gone through or pain or sadness in earth school, this knowing that I'm loved, this knowing that I'm part of a bigger family. So that was one of the first ones, but then it was always layers, right? Because we do have to kind of survive. We have to work. We have to go to school. We have this duality. Well, I know I'm maternal, and yet I have to brush my teeth and go to dentist or my teeth might fall out. I mean, there's just some practical implications to being a human being, you know what I mean? And so I woke up pretty early and then it was just more and more waking up, more and more waking up, you know?
Isn't that something though? What a great description. We still have to do these menial things, right? But we're multidimensional. We're
But I think
galactic.
that's why I think we took this trip, Todd. I really believe and which I think so many people are forgetting. And I mean, look, I don't presume to know what everybody should do. I don't assume what everybody's journey is, but I think that there's a group of folks because this is the work that I do in life. This is how I support myself. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing for decades. And I see a group of people who are very much like they want to lean so in the spirit world, and then they're not taking care of their rent. They're not
Yeah.
paying their this. And I really believe that in general, as a collective, not only do we come to work on earth and bring in clearing and healing, we also came to know what it's like to be in a body, to respect its limits while still being multidimensional. And
Yeah.
it's not an easy task.
Thrill seeking in the human bodysuit. So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love that description. I believe that we're, my own universe. This is my own belief. We're integrating everything, polarities,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And to me, the biggest one is physical and non-physical. So I've had, primarily with my wife, we've had interdimensional experiences with apparitions, with materialization, let's just put it that way, and many extraordinary type things where to me, it seems to be the physical and the non-physical are merging, and these are just flashes that we've been blessed to be part of. But my question is, I love what you said. The hashtag here is I am soul, and the second one is the human is the hero. Because without the human, I mean, the human's that's the gonads. That's the kahuna, whatever you call it.
Exactly. And the question you asked me earlier about when did I wake up, I saw so many miraculous healings in my family. My brother has a congenital heart issue that, he survived what doctors don't even understand why. He is missing a part of his heart and they added something and they've been, he's had surgeries, open heart surgeries, but all the young people who were born in the year that he was born aren't living anymore. And even when he did a test with medical, you have to have over 90% oxygen in your body to be cognitive, right? To be functioning. He had 60 at the time before they did his heart, and he graduated, high level master's program, worked full time. And so when the doctors asked him, he said, I think that my body adapted. Do you know what I mean? Like I adapt, but we were raised spiritual. We were raised with the possibility of miracles. I've been at the feet of readers and psychics since I'm young, telling us information I've seen apparitions, I've seen things. Um, I was in a car accident where I didn't have a seatbelt and nothing happened to me. And I rolled 3 times, that's what made me like go full time in my work. So yes, we're totally melding, but I
Yeah.
think it's so important for us to be able to anchor spirit and allowing ourselves to be fully present in the
Yeah.
human
No,
body.
no, I agree with you. Absolutely. I think well, I guess my question was going to be, do you think we have the potential collectively to actually merge these two in every moment and create really, in essence, a new dimension or even more of a dream state type dimension? But I really want to go back to what you said, because I think that's the most important part of this trip. We're both the mission and the prize. And that's that we, no matter what we pull in, channel, transmit, download, whatever activations we get, um, they don't mean anything unless we fully embody the human being. you know it's
Exactly. It's so, and it's like, because look, I've met so many spiritual people who are not doing well as a human,
Yeah.
and they're amazing. And I think that traditionally there were a lot of people who maybe in the past were thought to be out there. I'm talking about centuries past or even present. And
Yeah.
so being able to have this groundedness and this presence allows us to get to that state you were talking about, your next question. I think we do absolutely have the potential for that, but I don't think that as a collective, we've healed our ego and our greed enough to
Mm.
be able to create something. I mean, I think it's happening now. I think we're having alternate universes where
Yeah.
you and I and your wife and everyone, we've created this incredible peaceful universe, and we're all playing and hanging out. I think it's happening right now. But in terms of this conscious state in this moment, um us evolving, linearly,
Yeah.
I think we have so much work to do.
Mm.
There's still people ripping each other's heads off over, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, this is what's
Yeah.
happening. There's
Yeah.
still people who,
That lower level, and I say lower level, we know the words aren't going to, we're not
right,
we're not about separation. That's all I'm saying.
right.
And none of us are. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know, these last 2 months and then going into January so far have been really intense. A lot of people have been talking about it. All their stuff is coming up in a deeper and deeper way. We've talked about it for months on the show. People processing that stuff, taking it in, transforming it at a quicker rate. It still hurts, but it
Yes.
seems like there's some type of collective energy that's palpable that is supporting and encouraging that, even to the point of lighting a stick of dynamite under your rear end.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even for spiritual folks, like I was already, by the time that I had that car accident, and I had the car accident December 21st, which is winter solstice, and it was the end of the Mayan calendar, December 21st, 2012, right? So I was already doing for 15 years circles in my apartment in New York. I was already healing people, working with people since I was 20, just part time. That car accident put a fire under my butt.
Yeah.
Like I was like sleeping, and I heard sit up straight so you don't break your back. All these things I was prepared. And then suddenly we started like rolling down a hill, and I'm holding on with no seatbelt. When I crawled out, I was like, but wait a minute, I've been a good person. I've been doing things, but it was like, you had to go to the next level, faith over fear,
Yeah.
really do all of what you're meant to do. And so I think all of us in different ways are getting little sticks of dynamite, little fires lit up their ass. Hopefully we realize what it is. I think there are going to be people who are still blaming everybody, blaming their parents, blaming this, blaming that. And I think there are others who are going to be like, wow, this is a lesson. And what is it teaching me? And what am I awakening into? So
Yeah.
absolutely, it has
And
been a
then, and
difficult
then,
time.
and then when you get to a certain point, you start to have these flashes of of our multidimensionality in your physical consciousness, and I love that too, because it's almost like the dog chasing its tail, right? I mean, we spend all this time trying to distance ourselves and even disassociate ourselves from the human. Yet we've got to, that's the whole trip. You got to take it in 100%, 100%.
Totally, totally. It's so interesting. When I was younger and I was learning to read astrology, I was like, oh, I'm a sun Taurus. Ooh, boo. Like I like some parts of my chart more than I liked others. And I only came to realize as I got older, I was like, oh my God, I'm so blessed to have this sun Taurus that gives me an embodied connection, because you know, most of my work, I'm channeling and reading every day. I'm guiding people through past lives, through soul releasements. Like my work day, that's what my work day is every day. It's not like I do 2 sessions a week. And
Mm,
then I'm doing classes. I talk to a lot of healers and they don't do that many sessions or that much work sometimes.
mm,
They're more speakers or they know how to do it. This is how I support myself and prepare for retirement. So I'm in sessions every day. I'm in sessions in Spanish and English. So my space of being in everybody's space all day, then I need to like come back in and be like, okay, what's for dinner? Do you know what I mean? I need to be able
mm.
to be like, ooh, I have to get a
And you're
massage. I have
bilingual. We'll have to do a
to rub my
bilingual
back.
episode. We'll have to do a bilingual episode. Hablo español un poquito, Tito.
Sí, hablar un poquito. You should. You should. I was able to attract a lot of people coming in by speaking Spanish to
Mhm.
them. So it was really important because everybody's waking up,
No
you know.
estoy, pero estoy, I forgot. I can't remember.
Necesitas
I've
práctica.
been doing
Práctica.
so I'm too self-conscious to do it. I can't think in Spanish anymore. Back to the ascension. Now you grew up in
In
a
New York.
family 4 or 5 generations that had, I mean, a lot of times you'll hear about a grandmother and then it skips a generation, like Morgan's like that. But you've had 5 successive, 4 or 5 successive, and so they talk about this stuff just like they talk about anything in the house.
Well, they did, but they were still secretive about it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 19, my friends, and that was like, you know, a long time ago, many decades, my friends were passing around this cassette of past lives. Well, they all fell asleep. I put it in and I was like, bam, bam, bam. I went into 5 past lives. I came out. I had lessons. My guides had talked to me. You know, it was like, you know, this is many decades ago. And so I knew that I had been these people and why I was incarnated as Vanessa at 19, which is very awkward to be with people your age who want to get high and hang out and
Yeah.
find their freedom from their parents. Meanwhile, you're like, wait a minute, this is what happened. So I went to Argentina and I sat down and I was feeling so scared to tell my grandfather, my paternal grandfather. When I told him this is what happened to me, he laughed and called my grandmother. And he's like, kid, you don't know. And he started telling me about his guide. She started telling me about, so they didn't talk about it that openly. Yes, we accepted spiritual messages, we accepted, but once I opened the door, it suddenly came out. And I only found out after my other grandmother, my paternal grandmother passed, that she used to hold circles and used to do mediumship circles.
Mm.
But at 6, she held my hand and did something like this. And I remember at 6 going, if I ever do what she's doing, I'm not going to do all this stuff. I'm just going to stay relaxed. And so it was something natural, normal. I grew up in a white Jewish neighborhood, being Catholic and Hispanic. I was taught spiritismo. So I knew a lot about like cleansing with limpias, with eggs, with all these different techniques. And so over time, I mean, in a way, I was waiting for everybody to catch up because people weren't reading these books. I was giving You Can Heal Your Life out when I was 19, which is, you know, over 20 years ago. I was handing out spirituality books, crystals at this young age where people were like, oh, what is that? I mean, we didn't have Wi-Fi at that time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so as time has progressed, I'm like, oh my God, yes, we're all kind of coming into this space. But I'm grateful that my family was open. They didn't want me to do this as work though, Todd. They didn't. They were scared. They wanted me to hide. They wanted me to do it for my family or my private world. They didn't want me to be on video and have a website and do all that I do. They were
Mm.
scared.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So what's the most intense experience you ever had in a shared environment with your family? Have y'all ever done any work together or anything happen?
So one of the most intense experiences that I've ever had, it really changed my life. I was walking around. This is what like blew me open in a huge way. And set me on my path, I think, even though I fought my path for a long time. I was walking around in high school music and the arts. It's like the fame school in Manhattan. And my friends had a Ouija board and they're like, oh, this guy wants to talk to you. So he talked to me, told me lots of things. And then I went home and told my mom, and then they happened. Things like this family member is going to show up at this event, though they were not invited. This is going to happen. It happened. My mom said, bring the Ouija board over at home. And what happened is I brought it home and she goes, no, you have a good memory, because I do. She goes, you can look at things and remember. So she blindfolded me,
Mm-hmm.
flipped the Ouija board around, and we did a little prayer. And I started, and next thing I knew, I saw a woman with red hair in my mind with a little kid by a river, and she was coming out, she was wet, and she said, please take care of Willie. And that's my dad's name. And she was telling me in my own mind, like telling, so I'm like, Mom, there's a woman with red hair and a little kid, they're crawling out of a river. Right. I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like, they're saying, take care of Willie. And she's like, okay, okay. And then she tells me things, so I'm sharing it. Then I see a woman dressed in black, older, like 1800s, 1700s. And she's like, you have to tell your cousin Jaime not to go into work on the third Saturday of this month because something bad will happen. And I was like telling my mother, I'm like, this is what I'm hearing. So the Ouija board didn't exist anymore. I didn't have my fingers on it. It was just me. It was like, bam, bam.
Right.
And then I saw a man with a plumed hat speaking in a very heavy Spaniard accent, pues, da, 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 and very dramatic. And I'm like, Mom, this man is telling me that you don't let him in, that you're not listening to him. He has a heavy Spanish accent. She goes, just do it, imitate him. So I'm like, pues, da, 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 and I'm doing the whole thing. And she's like, all right. I took off the blindfold. She's like, just stay here. So I sat there going, what just happened? My brain just went. She came back with my dad's framed picture, opened the back and pulled out a picture of a woman with red hair. And she said, we've never talked about her. You don't know about her. It was his ex-girlfriend who died in a river with her child. Remember, they were coming out of a place with water. They were dripping wet. And the woman was saying, right, and she loved him still.
Holy shiitake mushrooms.
Right. No, and I'm 16 years old. I'm like, can I be a teenager? I'm like the oldest sibling. I have all these responsibilities in the home as being a Latina, sister. I'm changing diapers. I'm making bottles. I'm going to school. And now I'm getting these messages. And so the man with the plumed hat, she went in and pulled out an encyclopedia and pulled out this famous Spaniard writer. She goes, he appeared to me when I was 17 and told me he was my guide. And I was so scared. I went, no, because he had the plumed hat with the long cape. I was so scared. I went, no, not with me. Leave me alone. And she goes, and then he left. So he came through me to tell her, you won't listen to me. I want to help you, because she's a writer. And he wanted to help her. And then the image of that older lady dressed in black, it turned out to be some great-great-grandmother. My mom called her family in Argentina and said, Jaime cannot go to work on this third week of this third day. Well, they listened, and there was a holdup at the job. Somebody got shot, but he wasn't there at all. Nothing happened. So my brain was like, poof. And my mom told my dad, and next thing I knew, my parents were having their friends come over, and I was reading people on their lives and in their business. At some point, though, I lied and said that I lost my powers because it was too much. I was like, I'm going to college, I'm going to high school, I'm in an honors program. I have these siblings I take care of. And now adults are asking me questions, I was like, I can't. And I didn't really know what I was doing.
Were you in New York when this was happening?
Yeah, New York City.
What part of New York?
So I grew up in Forest Hills. Forest Hills is a white Jewish neighborhood, I think even till then. But I was going to high school in Manhattan with, a diverse, inclusive group of teens, talented artists from all over. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a lot.
You were in the thick of everything. So now, do you, God, this is crazy, literally.
Yeah.
Well, thank God you're not the only crazy one anymore. But at least
I know. And it was so good. it was great. Like they affirmed it. But I just, a couple of months after reading all these adults and their businesses, like I didn't know what I was delivering, but I learned a lesson. I learned not to lie. Like even now, my Akashic record readings, I don't make up anything. I don't kind of assume anything. I literally keep asking the other side, what do you mean? How should I explain it? And so I don't make up or add my meaning. I don't go, well, it's a dove, it must mean peace. I say to the spirit or to the information, what do you mean by this dove? And then I relay it. So it taught me that not to make, just to be there, to receive, to hand it over. And it just changed my life. I didn't tell many friends.
Not let the mind get in the way. Yeah. So now do you work with a specific team? I know in the end we're all one, but people talk about monads. Your mother had the visit from the writer that was a guide. We've all had our experiences, but do you work with a particular face of the universe, or do you speak to like one voice?
So it's so interesting. I've had so many different, but when I started at 19 writing, I did a lot of automatic writing. They kept calling themselves one. And one turned out to be 268 different souls who had united
like the
and were
complex.
like helping me. Right. And they were
Yeah, they call
helping
them
me.
the complex. Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
aside from that, I've had so many goddesses come in and work with me. And after my surgery, I had surgery in 2012, right before my car accident. Like 2012 was life changing. I had a breakup, an accident, a layoff before surgery. It was really something ripping me away from the everyday life and going,
So
build a business.
you did have the same type of thing. Successive traumas occurring on or around 2012, like a lot of people did.
Yeah, and it happened from October to December, but then it was amazing. I had to even move out of my apartment in Manhattan, I mean in New York, because I couldn't afford it. I'd lost my job, I lost my love relationship, that I was dying. But the message was you have to go full time. So I created a 9-month program called the Urban Priestess Mastery for $9,000.
Mm.
And when I was able to sell that, then I was able to support myself and come back. And so this huge ability to actually create something and offer it to people came. But you asked me who I work with. After the surgery, I was trying to do a yoga class and I left. And I saw myself in heaven and I saw this incredible angel, Gabriel. And he's like, you know, you work for me. You work with me and you work for me. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know. And so within that range, I've had Arcturians visit me. I've had Palladians visit me. A lot of African goddesses and orishas have worked with me too. I always knew they were part of my lineage. I recently did the DNA and found out they were closer to me, my ancestors, than I thought. I work with my ancestors a lot.
Yeah.
And I consider myself a star seed who's just been on Earth a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And brought into a very unique family situation, I might add. And actually practiced, you know, a lot of people have talked about how they did things like that, but it was for friends and family. But to go full bore into it at 19, handing out books on the streets of New York.
No, and at 16 to read the people, but I had to pull back. And I'll tell you, Todd, it took me a long time. I mean, listen, I only came out really around 39, 40, like online. But it was already 20 some odd years of circling, sweat lodging, 20 years. Like I was doing so much inner work because, you know, back in the day, I mean, you know this, as mystics and healers and shamans, we were not promoting ourselves. You know, we weren't taking special promotional pictures. We weren't doing webinars.
No.
We weren't doing mailing lists. We weren't. And so
you were put in debtors that they would have burned at the stake.
Right. And then in the star people, we don't need to do all that because all we need to do is think about it and somebody else receives the message. And so suddenly being in that bridge of, oh, okay, I'm here to integrate the word used early on and really work the tools that are here in this decade, in this time of this era. And so I created a business online and started working with people all over the world and just allowing my gift to flow. But I fought it. I mean, I went into corporate, I worked in film and television.
Try to be normal.
But I still talked about it and I guided people, but I also didn't know it was possible to support myself this way.
A double life. Morgan talks
Yeah.
about she had a double life for a long, long time, 20 years.
Yeah.
So, wow, so that's a good segue. I mean, like, okay, so utilizing the tools that are available today.
Yes.
Let's start with the galactic, because you made a comment there. You said, now you got the galactic, you can make it, you know, you can think a thought and the other person gets it. Can you talk about your understanding of the galactic frequencies or whatever you want to call it? Let's just call it a complex, you know. Can you talk about how does that work? How do you utilize it? Is that part of your toolkit?
It is part of my toolkit. I'll tell you that I've moved away from it a little bit because I saw so many people using so much light language. And again, they weren't paying their rent, they weren't eating.
Yeah.
Some of them were suffering from starvation. I saw the extremity of it.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like in my own meditation, I receive the information and the downloads in my own. So I don't even use that language, let's say with my clients or my students, right? I work on healing their karma, working with their ancestors, connecting to their higher self, their spiritual guides, and really being present in this moment.
Shadow work, energy work, alignment.
So, right. So personally for me, like I call them in, but I also I have to say I had a brush with a group that has secret initiations for now hundreds of years on this planet. And I left them. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I left them because their emphasis was on that. And
On
I found
on
that
the
their
galactic,
emphasis
on a
was on
specific.
healing, the planet, but to the sacrifice of the individual.
Okay, so it was like a lower level, other
No, it
dimension.
was a very high level,
I
very
mean,
secret organization on Earth.
lower level in terms of what you wanted to be working with. I mean, it's a
No,
still
no.
yeah.
Well, but what happens at a point that I've discovered, I mean, I'm not the end all be all, is that when you get to a certain level, the individual doesn't really matter because it's about the collective.
Yeah.
And so if you don't care about your skin suit or your life, that's your mission in this life. And that's the work that you do.
Yeah, I get
In
you.
this particular life, I do care. In
Yes.
this particular life, I'm not wanting to sacrifice my earthly life to
Or
for the
anyone else's.
collective. Right, exactly. So I feel that I can do a lot by training people, by healing people,
Mm,
but I have encountered groups like that. What I
yeah.
would say, some of the tools that I use is I do the meditation. It helps me connect, and I connect to my higher self first, but then my oversoul, right? And the next level of that, and the next level of that, and then it becomes your archangels. Then it becomes your
Mm,
complex or where you come from.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
do think though that many people feel like, oh, I've got it under control. I knew I'm Pleiadian, but they actually can't manage it that well.
Mm-mm.
So
Well,
I think it takes a very unique human being, and a lot of them can do it mostly as they get older. As we get older, we've already been on Earth, we've been parents, we've done our thing. I've noticed in general that people were like, no, no, I've got the Palladian. And then again, they're not eating. There's a lot of other stuff happening. I don't need food. I've heard these things. So for me personally, I think that in meditation, connecting to my complex, it's more of a private thing. So it's not something that I
yeah.
train or teach,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it's all in the same tree. So, and I know
Absolutely.
so much of it's metaphoric, but when you,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
And
even
so,
I wonder about that too, because I know some of the stuff that's happened to us. And and I wonder, I thought, well, is that we're both making this happen in the sense we're both aligning at a certain point. So I know individuals have done it because I've done it on an individual level. She's done it on an individual level. You've done it. There's a lot of people that have done it. But that's like, I guess where I'm going with it is like, are we going to start seeing this where two or more gather? Because there's more
oh,
and
I
more.
think it's been happening, Todd. I think it's been happening for centuries, for millennia, probably. I mean, there are even studies where I think these monks meditated on peace in a particular city and then crime went down, right? So I think we're already seeing it. The issue I find, and again, I'm not the end all be all, but just my experience, is that um, we are manifesting that, but we're manifesting that in war. We're
Yeah,
manifesting it in there's not enough for all of us.
yeah.
We're manifesting it also in peace and healing. So I
Mhm.
think one of the main things to do is I think that we can help heal the planet more if each and every one of us really knows that we are loved, that we are protected, that we are safe, that we are interconnected, and that our thoughts matter, and that there's enough for all of us. I think that once we get into this body, we start to believe that there's not enough, and that's where greed kicks in.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where you have, I have to get more money, I have to control the planet. I think that the more we realize we're interconnected,
Yeah.
then we won't focus on that stuff, getting all the gold in the world and getting all the money. We're going to be focused on let's heal the animals. Let's make it rain in Australia so
Yeah.
the animals are saved and the people are
Do,
saved and the land is saved.
do you think that collectively, I mean, you're still in New York? Are you still
And
there?
now I'm in Pennsylvania. I fell in love and I moved to Central PA.
Okay, you're in Central PA. All right.
Very
So,
different, very different.
oh yeah, it's beautiful out there.
Yeah.
So are you seeing clear evidence of a collective awakening beyond a fad, beyond I'm a light worker, beyond, I mean, real the meat and potatoes? Are you seeing evidence?
Yes, I've seen it. I've seen it for years now, decades. Like I think when I went to my first like women's festival, there were 500 women there. It was like 20 years ago.
Wow.
And women, there wasn't that much diversity. It was mainly white women, but then over the years they started to bring in more diverse people, and I brought in a whole group of Latinas and we started to bring in more people. I think that there is the collective awakening. I think that a lot of indigenous young people are beginning to wake up and then call in their people. I think that a lot of Latinx people are waking up and beginning to honor their own ancestors.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of our Black brothers and sisters are also beginning to reclaim their own roots
Yeah.
because of what's happened on Earth, because of the colonization, because of the greed, because of the darkness.
Yeah. That's a good
We've
point.
lost, we've
That's
lost
a
our
good
way.
point. That's a
And
very, yeah.
spiritually bypassing and going, no, I'm just going to go to Arcturus, or I'm going to go to Pleiades, or I'm going to evolve. Well, it's kind of like we can't jump into the galaxy until we kind of handle our roots.
Yeah.
Maybe white people can,
Mhm.
maybe, because they also have their own traumas. But when we're talking about Black and brown people, there's so much that they need to reclaim because it's been taken away from them. And so I
Well,
do believe there's a
yeah,
collective
I think,
awakening.
yeah, I think the difference is, and I really like this subject. I think that the difference is that in those non-Caucasian ethnicities, there were through oral tradition, ritual, and that type of thing. So there's, yeah, to go back and retrace those steps. Where in the Caucasian, you probably had some as well, especially like in the, Celtic countries,
Celtic, yes.
even like the Mongolians. Well, I guess that wouldn't be Caucasian, would it?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's there. I mean, it's there. But yeah, that's
But
a
I'm
good.
talking about the healing because it's so many generations upon generations
Oh
of
yeah.
oppression. I mean, women are still oppressed, people of color are still oppressed, whatever we want to call
True.
it,
Yeah.
and it's happening subtly, it's happening systematically. And so I do believe in the 5D, we are getting there, but we also have to be, it's like we have to quote unquote clean up our mess. You know what I mean? Collectively too. So I
Well, I
do
think.
believe that
Yeah.
there is evidence of it. There is
No, I
awakening.
think, yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that healing comes from going back to the roots. I remember years ago, I had a manager down in South Texas, and she was had the chicken feet and the powder out on the front steps so she could get more sales, of the office.
Yeah.
It worked. So it shouldn't,
Yes.
yeah, she shouldn't have done any business down there. But no, in all seriousness, it is a big, big part of these cultures, a huge part. And a lot of that stuff got swept under the rug. A lot of it was basically they tried to wipe it out. But yeah, to get that frequency reestablished, I think creates its soul, its spirit.
Yeah. But I really think there's a lot of evidence that it is beyond a fad. I think time will tell.
Mhm.
And but I've also seen a lot of people who are jumping into this trend of like wellness and spirituality. I've seen a lot of people leverage their fame in other areas and
Yeah,
suddenly get hired to speak at conferences, etc. Meanwhile, they just read a book yesterday. That doesn't mean that they don't have soul wisdom. I'm not knocking that.
yeah,
But I'm saying that people are also seeing this as a new Hollywood, and also a get rich quick in their own mind. They think that
yeah.
they're going to get
Well,
rich quick
I
doing
don't know, man.
retreats.
I don't think the universal energy is going to support anything at this point, but pure truth. Or I will say, I think it's going to support, maybe always has, alignment. Alignment of a soul with a mission or a relationship or whatever the case is. And I don't know. It just seems like there's more magic in the air. Maybe because more people are going deep. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. Are you seeing people coming in more willingly? Are they expanding quicker? Are your modalities changing that you're utilizing because of these?
So some of with the work that I do, I see that there's more people. I mean, it's hard to say are there more people. There's just more social media.
Mhm.
So like when I started doing Spanish videos, like 44,000 followers came in a year and a half. I'm always booked, right? There's
Yeah.
always people, and my modalities have always been the Akashic records, talking to spirit, working in the person's records to heal and release. And then I always did hypnosis. I started training in my 20s. And
Mhm.
so with hypnosis, one thing I have noticed a lot of that I did not notice before is that people they have a lot of soul attachments. So and this is when people haven't crossed over to the other side and they're still hanging on to the people. And
Oh, you
I've
mean,
even
okay,
have
so
some clients,
you
yeah,
mean friends, family that passed are still attached to
or
the person,
strangers or strangers.
or strangers?
Or strangers. I've had people come in and they're like, Vanessa, I'm eating too much. This is what's happening to me. And I'm trying to talk to them as like, well, what's happening in your life that you're eating too much? What is it that you're trying to fill up? And it turns out when I go in hypnosis that they've got 10 attachments, right?
Wow.
And they don't, and two of them are past lives that are still with them. one of them may be an ancestor, but the other 6 or whatever, they don't know it all, but hooked onto them because they knew that this person would eventually come to someone and they'd go into the light. And we released the 10, and then they still had 2 sessions paid for. And I'm like, you haven't booked. They're like, oh, I'm eating normally again. I don't even know what you did or what happened. They don't even, some people don't even believe. They're like, all I know is that I'm myself again. And so what I'm seeing is that a lot of energies around us are glomming onto us, like hooking onto us. And maybe they always did. But I'm seeing in my practice that in order to do a past life regression or help somebody build their business and release their fear of visibility, I've got to now release attachments that are on them. And I think that it's part of our service to them, because if we take on a soul that's lost,
Yeah.
and then we bring them into the light through meditation, through prayer, it doesn't have to be through a session with me, or sweat lodging or whatever it is that we do, or dance or singing, we're helping them go into the light. But that's what I've seen a lot of attachments.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm listening to you and I'm getting a picture of, 7, 8 years ago. Because when I woke up, most of it was, I'd say about 25 or 30 occurrences, discarnated souls would come. Now that you're explaining this to me, I'm wondering if they were like, around me, not in a negative way, just knowing at some point they would have an opportunity. And so I would take them in, I would take them home, basically.
Yes.
It was almost
I
like training. It was like, it's what really set my feet in stone, I think, when I first woke up. Because there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's a lot of crazy stuff going on too. So you don't know if you're crazy or what. But that part of it really solidified, who am I? I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I got this. But
That's
but
beautiful.
now that you say that, and if you take the linear out of it, I can see where souls would congeal just like a complex. And if they were around us, they would have had to affect us. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah,
exactly. I love it. And I feel like you've done this work before, and that's why you did it again.
absolutely. I know I have. I saw about 9 of the lives.
Yeah.
One of them was pretty cool. I was in New York. I was a black guy, and I was a blues singer. I was a blues guitarist, but I was a teacher. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, that was a cool one. So, wow, this is neat. Yeah, I like this. Now, tools. Let's talk about the Akashic for a minute.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people who have come on in 1,700 episodes, and they do something with the Akashic. And I have a request for you privately after the show. I'm just a reminder because you said something that I want to hit you up on. But anyway, so what does that mean when you go in and look at someone's Akashic? To you, what does it mean? How does that look?
So to me, the Akashic records are the divine energy of the universe. It's been with us. I mean, we never left source, but whenever we decided to begin this journey of incarnation, which the word begin doesn't even fit, right? Because we're so multidimensional that there is no beginning and no ending. It's just a continuous. But the energy from when we started to incarnate, the Akashic records started to record everything we've done. So it's literally the chronicles of our soul's journey, right? It's the chronicle of our soul's journey. And it not only talks about themes in different lifetimes, it talks about the theme in this lifetime. And these beautiful beings, I mean, some people call them angels. You can call them Akashic record keepers. You could call them ancestors, your guides, whatever ETs. You can call them, they have so many different names. Some of them have never been incarnated. And so we have guides in the Akashic records. Some people call it the soul library, and
Yeah,
literally imagine that they're pulling books out of the library, right?
yeah, that's very.
And when we go into the records, it's such a place of truth and love. I read a couple of people last week, and they said, Vanessa, this is weird. Everybody that's been reading me has been like, the readings have been harsh. They've been like, you better get your butt together and shit, and and like, because this is gonna happen. And she goes, and I felt so beat up after the readings. And then when we went into the Akashic records, you were so loving, you were serious, and you did share like pathways. And I'm like, but sweetheart, you went home. Home should not be harsh,
No,
right?
no.
Because the truth is, and you know this, Todd, and people who are watching, we do have eternity. So even if something, let's say we don't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish in this life, right? It's okay. We're going to pop up again and do
Yeah.
another round if we want to. And so people say to me, the Akashic record readings are so different. I feel so loved, so supported. And I'm like, we're not really supposed to be berated into growth. Like, that's such an old earth school, like, ugh, you know,
Yeah.
Catholic school kind of like beating you up,
Yeah.
flagellation. I was like, it's supposed to be loving and kind. Hey, remember, you're so powerful. Remember, you have more love and more support than you could ever imagine. Remember,
Now,
there's more to you than this.
so now do you utilize the hypnosis with the Akashic? Are they able to experience it as well?
So they're different things. So when I do a reading, it can be just a simple, it's just a reading,
Hmm.
but I'm in their records and it's holographic. So I do a prayer, I open up, and suddenly I feel like I'm seeing things in the air. There's different beings, energy speaking to me. So I'll be like, you over there, be quiet. Let's let this group over there talk. And so I'm managing like all information. People ask questions. Once I know what we need to work on, if it's not shifted in the Akashic space, which it can be, I book another session. We do hypnosis. In hypnosis, I'm trained in clinical hypnotherapy. We go in, they release their conscious mind, and we find out, is this issue, core issue that you have, is it past life? Is it present? Is
Hmm.
there something, within your family we need to heal?
Right.
Is it a soul attachment, or is it an ancestral pattern? It could be so many things. And then we work on that, we release the energy.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the tools that I work
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. It sounds a lot like, there's lots of different, some of them look different on the surface. I mean, Morgan
Yeah.
has been
Yeah.
doing it for 20 years. I mean, it's the same type of thing. She doesn't get there specifically through, the same methods, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, now when you work with someone, I know you have methods to clear. Do they get to a point where they can start to kind of do the maintenance themselves? To where do they know enough to how to access their higher self, or to how to
Yes.
clear things in themselves, that type of thing?
Well, the thing that I love the most is actually helping people and giving people tools. Like I love doing the actual, support healing work.
Hmm.
But ever since I started doing like the readings and the hypnosis, I also have classes. They're going on at the same time. Like I have a couple of classes coming on in January.
Hmm.
So I did an 8-week intuition boot camp now. I don't know, I've taught it 12 times online. And it's a basic 8-week program. Yes, they can. What people come to me for, it's not because they can access their higher self, it's because they're stuck. A lot of people come to me are leaders and healers already. So they're like, I do this for other people. Why can't I get past it?
Mm.
Right. So people already have the skills, but it's like me. I've worked with healers. I've worked with leaders and healers and guides. Um, it's important to sometimes have someone else guiding you and allowing yourself to receive, because we don't always have.
Yeah.
We always feel like we have to be the ones. And
It,
so,
it always gets back to that quotient of self-love. Of this blockage, that blockage. I mean, it's always got something to do with something that we don't, see in ourselves, but that we are not aware of.
when
Shadow.
it's self-love, but it's also, if you've had a lot of lifetimes, let's say torture
Yeah.
and abuse, and
Yeah.
then in this lifetime you manifested it again, it manifested in incest abuse again.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to just say, well, let's self-love you. It's like sometimes there needs to be some sort of process
Yeah.
to be able to actually really let go, because there are people who are even mad at God, right? They're mad at God, they're mad at their higher self, because they're like, F you, universe. If you really loved me and had my back, I wouldn't have been tortured and beaten and raped and abused. I
Well,
mean, that's a reality
I
too.
say I say the first part, but I don't say the second part. I say it as a term of endearment.
Yeah, no, and I love it, but I'm just
Brevity,
saying that there are people
brevity of
who,
the situation. I've had plenty of
yeah,
those meetings, though. They always work. Something always comes out of it. Sometimes it's a little painful.
yeah,
I got to watch my toes.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, very cool. So yeah, so now you're in central Pennsylvania, but you're in the Northeast. There's a lot of people. A lot of people. I mean, there's 55% of the houses are in the Northeast, because I know that from old industry. Do you see people in the streets? I mean, you spent so much time. You started doing this before you went internet for years and years and years. Are there people getting together? Uh,
Yes, there's people getting together. I've been part of in Central PA. I've stepped out and now been teaching some workshops, but there's people who are marching for peace and people who are doing drum circles, people who are doing things. I mean, I think drum circles have been going on, for centuries, but in the 60s, they started a lot and then they kept going.
yeah.
So we've had drum circles in a lot of areas now for 70 years. in New York. I mean, you had the hippies, the energy of, make love, not war. I think that they've been going on for a long time. What I do find is that younger people are now being able to call themselves empath. The younger people are beginning, like, I knew I was an empath at a certain point, and I started talking about that a decade and a half ago. Now there's tons of books about it. There weren't books out when I was looking for it. I think that there's more education. People are watching videos. People are waking up in that way. I think there's just a lot going on. And one of the things that I want to share for anybody who's watching or listening, so many people write me and call me. They're like, oh, I want to live my soul purpose. Your soul purpose is not always a name or a title on a business card.
Yeah.
You're just shining your light wherever you go.
It's an energy, a frequency. It's a frequency. Soul signature.
Yeah.
That's
There's
cool.
a lot, there's a lot of people who are doing yoga training, and for a lot of people, that's the portal.
Yeah.
Like yoga training, a lot of people, when I talk to them, they're like, oh, I first did yoga, and then from there I did this. It's different ways to go at it.
Gateway cosmic drug. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
totally.
And you're the cosmic switchboard operator.
Yeah.
That's what I was picturing when you were doing that. I was picturing those old cables they would stick in, when they were.
Yeah, it's and you know what, I feel so blessed. I feel so honored. It has not always been easy, Todd.
Yeah.
There are many times where I've cried and I've been like, oh, please, I wish I was just like someone who didn't know about this, so I could fully just be, this, when I was younger, this or that, because I didn't really get to be, I wasn't like a 20-something-year-old the way other 20-something-year-olds are.
No,
I
you were 2,700 years old.
Right. No, it was like, yeah, it was like this. So now what I do, now that I'm older, I'm part of an improv theater, and I perform
cool.
every weekend, and I've been taking improv classes. So
Yeah.
I play a lot now, even though I do serious work,
So,
because
you
it felt
mentioned,
overwhelming.
yeah, no, that's very cool. I like that because that's very human as well. And it also, because there's something about this, again, merging the physical and non-physical, there's something about spontaneity, and improvisation, rap, freestyle, slam poetry or whatever.
It's magic. It's magic.
It is. It's, and I've done 60, I haven't done one in a while, about 90, these Soul Speak music productions where I either speak it or rap it or a little bit of melody. And every one of them, but like 4 or 5 were one take. And they're not perfect, but I see the perfection. Like, it's like, how can the music stop on the last word? Well, that was one of them. I was like, okay, you can't make that up. I made the video and all the pictures just started popping to the beat. There was no software to do that, but that's the kind of magic that happens. Yeah.
Yes, I love that you're doing that. And that's what, for me, like, you step out there, you're not in control of anything. All you can do is respond. Like, I've thrown myself on the floor and barked, and I thought I was a dog, and somebody comes up and they're like, Uncle George, stop acting like the house dog again. And I get up, I'm like, you're no fun. I'm just trying to have fun on Thanksgiving,
Like
and it's like, I didn't know. I thought I was a dog. We had a practice yesterday where I came in and I thought I was a homeless person who walked into somebody's house and was eating their banana. But they turned around, they're like, oh my God, do you see what I see? It's a raccoon and she's sitting on her couch. But I acted like I was a human. I'm like, my name is Alice. I see you're human. But it just happened, and it could be so, and I think that allows us to relax, because there's a lot of dogma around spirituality too. How it should be, how to climb the levels, what are the words, what is ascension, what isn't ascension, that allowing ourselves to be is key.
My friend Anna Thomas over in Ohio, she has the same type of frequency we do. She says, walking through life as improv actors. I get the humor in that one. So you mentioned earlier, you said something about fear of visibility, like you were just talking about some of the stuff that you do. Did you ever have a fear of visibility, and did you have to?
Absolutely.
How did you? I mean, you had to clear it. And okay, let's not talk about how you did it, but what did you find out? What it was that was causing it? Was it
Yes, so many levels, from being a mystic, being a healer, where you're behind the scenes. You're a priestess. I've been a priestess so many times. It's not like being a priestess now, where you're taking pictures with blooms on your head and you've got crystals on your nipples. Sorry, but Instagram, there's naked people, and God bless them. Taking pictures with the yoni sticks and whatnot, which is great, but it wasn't like that, Todd. And so back in the day, we didn't take pictures of altars, but I had to understand. So on a conscious level, I had to understand that the only way I was going to communicate with people is using the mediums and the tools. Instagram is a visual tool. So I got on video. I had to take pictures of my altar. I had to explain things. But some of the ways that I did it was hypnosis. I did it through ritual. I did it through sweat lodge. I went to Egypt and went into a temple. And what I found was I had a lot of lifetimes where I was just in the background. Because now people see it as powerful, like that you're a healer and rich and you have books out and you're speaking to millions of people. That's how a lot of people that I talk to think that being enlightened means that you're like this famous human being, with this microphone. And I'm like, some of the most enlightened people will never know their name because they're walking right next to us, just lighting up the world. And so when we've been doing that work for a long time, that's what we're used to. And so I found that out. This was a very big thing for me because I kept breaking up relationships. I turned down marriage proposals. I kept leaving relationships. I discovered that in a lifetime, one specific lifetime, I had to choose between working in this temple and in Persia, I think it was, or marrying this high level government official. And I wound up getting married and left the temple. And so it was an either or situation. And then we started to get invaded, and I was sent back to the temple to get the healers out and the priests and the scrolls. And my husband died, my children, but I got out with the healers. But the through line was, oh my God, I don't want to be responsible for people's lives.
Yeah.
So before I got thousands of followers, I'm 44 in Spanish, I was like, no, I'm fine teaching groups of 10, 50, I just, and I realized it was a fear. But then I understood, well, I'm not in charge of anybody's life. I am not going to say who lives or dies in this lifetime. And that lifetime I had to pick who could get on the ships, right, to get out of the area that was being attacked. And so those type of lifetimes where we're not supposed to be holy, to be sacred, was to be part of all that is. So we didn't have a name, we didn't have a website, we didn't have a tagline, or offerings. People came to the hut and you worked on them. So it was healing all of that,
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'm going to talk to you about that. So
definitely.
Hang on, I want you to give me your.
And I know I have like 2 minutes left. I'm sorry.
Oh, we got more than that. Oh, you got 2 minutes. I was gonna. Okay, then.
But we can come back. I can always come back. I love talking to you.
Yeah, man, you're like mi hermana. Mi hermana hermosita.
Gracias, mi amor. Gracias.
Okay, so can you do me a favor? Can you please put your links in, or I'll go look for them. I don't know if I have them, but okay. I want to make sure your links get in the comments. Have a great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bless you, Todd. Bless everybody who's watching. Thank you for having this beautiful conversation.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
And just check it out. The Biz Bruja. Just check me out, people. And I will put the links there.
Goodandetta.com. All right.
Ciao, mi amor.